There's tons of rare and super cool pieces of the Star Wars expanded universe, but today I'm going to talk about some truly obscure magazines that I think are just really, really cool. Before I get to showing the magazines, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to my friend Christopher Nelson, who gave me a list of stuff that was relevant for these magazines that I needed to find. He gave me a checklist, essentially, a comprehensive checklist. And while I'm still working on that checklist, I thought I'd make a video showing the cool magazines I already have. And I just want to give a huge thank you to him for all of his work, finding all of this super obscure stuff on his channel. So definitely go check out his channel. He has lots of videos about these magazines, and he goes into them in more detail than I know about. So definitely go check his channel out if you haven't already. And if you haven't checked out Christopher Nelson's channel already, but you're here, what are you doing? So I'm going to first show you the magazines, and then later I'm going to film the specific Star Wars sections of these magazines. So first I'm just going to show you the covers and stuff like that. First we have North Coast Role-Playing number 8. We're starting off with my favorite. It's really small, and it's it's paper, and I think it's, let's see if there's a page number on the back here. I don't think so. I get really nervous holding this one because it's just so cool. I just think it's a really, really cool little issue. It can't be more than 10 pages. It's really small, and you've even got the mailing address on the back. Now, from what I could tell, this was only based out of California, and I think it was in only a couple counties, only in a certain region of California. So that's why these are this is lower kind of budget looking, and it's one of your more mom and pop RPG place, like a place that sold miniatures or something like that. Just decided one day, let's make a role-playing magazine, and they did, and they were able to print it on this paper that's pretty flimsy, and this cover is just paper as well. But I just think that is so cool, and that there's Star Wars EU information in here is just crazy. It's crazy. This reminds me of a lot of books about Scottish ministry that my father has, that my grandfather got about ministry in Scotland, and it just was paper covers like this, and then just chronicling stuff that is just super obscure. Next we have Challenge Magazine number 32. It's a great cover. I think it looks super cool. And there's no indication that there's anything Star Wars on this cover, because some of these will say on the cover that there is Star Wars material included, but this one did not. Then we have Challenge Magazine number 41, which is another absolutely fantastic cover. And while Star Wars is not advertised, Star Trek is advertised on the cover, but there will be Star Wars material in this one as well. I think this is a really great cover. Some of these covers are really, really awesome. Just make them really, really cool. I know that there's a lot of Challenge magazines to collect. I only have 3 so far. There's a lot more to go on there. This is a Challenge Magazine number 43, and this is one of the ones that says that there's Star Wars material in it on the cover. So it says Star Wars on the dark side, gives the author there for the material in here. So it advertises that there is Star Wars in here, which is a couple of them do that, some of them don't. I think Christopher Nelson was explaining that some people didn't think Star Wars was going to sell anymore towards the mid to late 80s, I think, is when West End Games was doing Star Wars, but people were thinking the Star Wars craze was dying down for good, so they stopped showing it on the covers because they didn't think it would sell anymore, which how wrong were they? But maybe it wouldn't sell then, but man, it kept being a productive franchise even to this day, which is pretty cool. Now this is a really thick one. It's even got a spine. This is Dragon Magazine issue number 200. And it's got this holographic display on it to where if you look at it a certain way, a furious dragon appears. I'm not sure if you could see that there. or not, but this is a super cool cover. It's super cool how thick this is, but if I'm remembering correctly from flipping through it, there's only like there's only like 2 pages of Star Wars content in that huge issue. It's a special collector's issue because it's number 200. I have another Dragon Magazine one here featuring another sci-fi franchise from the 25th century, Buck Rogers, which Buck Rogers is super awesome, so he's featured on the cover, but there is Star Wars material in here as well. This is issue number 157, and this is another great looking issue. Now, these are the only 2 issues of Dragon Magazine that feature Star Wars content. So I believe it's only number 157 and number 200. I don't think there's any more in Dragon Magazine, but I could be wrong about that, but I think those are the only 2. I'm just going off the top of my head. I'll check afterwards and edit in if I was right or wrong. Then I know this is a complete set for sure. This is Space Gamer Fantasy Gamer. This one came out in 1988, and it's issue number 83. It feels like an older issue. I think the cover is really great. It looks just really cool. So that one's pretty cool there. But then they rebranded it to just being Space Gamer. I guess maybe they thought the sci-fi was selling better than the fantasy at this time. Because in 1989 they changed it to a volume 2 with just Space Gamer. So no longer Fantasy Gamer as well. So this is volume 2, issue number 1 of now the rebranded just Space Gamer. And this one I see pop up on eBay a lot. I think this is one of the more common ones to find. The back has a Star Wars advertisement on it, which is just really cool, for a West End Games sourcebook, which I think is great. And I don't think, no, this one doesn't say that there's Star Wars in it either. But let me pull out the last issue, because this one says that there is Star Wars material in there on that cover there. So that's cool. I think those are the only 2 issues of the Space Gamer / Fantasy Gamer magazines that have Star Wars material in them. Next is one that I've showed before. Role Player Independent, issue number 2, £1.75 from the UK. There's only one other issue in the Role Player Independent series that has Star Wars information, and I passed on it, and now I can't find it. So that's unfortunate. But this issue features Star Wars content, and it even says so. It says Star Wars across there, but there's no space even between Star Wars. The Star Wars information in there is really, really cool. So Role Player Independent was my first of these RPG magazines that features Star Wars articles and Star Wars like prose stories in some of these even, and RPG stats and content, new species, new characters. It's really great. I will show a couple of these pages shortly. But it's just really great, and this was my first one, so I just think it's really cool. Next is Polyhedron, number 90. I got this one because I thought the cover was awesome. Like, look at this double-headed white tiger. It just looks so cool. And there's some good Star Wars content in here. This is one of the thinner ones, but like most of this is Star Wars content. Then we have a kind of cool one. This is Polyhedron issue number 104. And it's still wrapped with the outside cover. So you open it up, and there's the actual cover. So that one's a pretty cool one. I like that one a lot. I'm not sure if I'll take the outside like paper cover out or not yet, but I shall see. So the final issue here to talk about today is Polyhedron issue number 145. This is a thicker issue of Polyhedron, and it does not say that there is Star Wars material inside of it on here. This is a great cover, though. I really like it. I like the logo that they switched to for Polyhedron across the top as well. I think it looks really, really great. So these are so super cool, and I'm just so amazed and glad that I have them now in my collection, because I just feel like these are going to become so rare. over time that, like, for an EU collection to have it, that's really cool. And it's hard to track these down. You have to go to certain sites. Like, I used Noble Knight Games to get mine. I'm sure there's some other ones that I'm not aware of. Yes, some of these pop up on eBay, but on eBay, they're going to be like $9 plus $7 shipping. That's a price that I saw for lots of them for some reason. So getting them for cheaper is very nice. On Noble Knight Games, I got most of these for like and it only charged $7 shipping, so it wasn't that bad. And most of them were like $3 to $4 each. There were a couple exceptions, but using them was very good for getting these. Very good indeed. So now let's take a look inside of the covers, shall we? So I guess I'll take a look at these in the reverse order. This is Polyhedron issue number 145. And if you flip these open, there's a table of contents to most of these. And that's where you go to find out where the Star Wars stuff is. So looking here on this page, looking down to try to find where the Star Wars stuff is, here it is, Living Force, Character Creation Rules. And it says, evil lurks at the heart of the Kaleran system, and a new breed of heroes must rise to defeat it in the waning days of the Old Republic. The network's newest living campaign pits valorous Jedi and lovable scoundrels against greedy merchants and corrupt diplomats. Square off against the dark side with these character creation rules. And it's on page 22. So, now I will attempt to get there with one hand. We shall see how well it goes. Alright, here it is. Yes, I remember this one. Like the logo on it, too. I think that's really, really cool. It's got some art. And it just, overall, is a really great page. And it continues with some more art, some more stuff. And then that's the end of that. So you get 4 pages of Star Wars content here to read through. Now, a lot of this, in this specific issue, seems less about, like, new lore and more about material for RPG games. That there was a little bit in this one, but it's mostly just like stats to help you play the RPG in this issue at least. And that's what some of these are, but like they do contribute some new lore and some minuscule connections. Continuing with Polyhedron, we have issue number 104. So let's take a peek in here. And again, this has the mailing cover sleeve on it. So here's the actual cover, which is a really cool cover. So opening it up, I don't think this one has table of contents, but you don't have to go far because it's on a very early page, page 9, that we get Dangers from the Dark Side, Villains of Star Wars New Republic Campaign Part 2. You recognize this author. He does a lot of stuff for West End Games, primarily, or is it Wizards of the Coast? He might be involved in both, but I know he did a lot of RPG material. And so we've got this, like, essentially story here. Like, this is prose story in the indented text, so that's super cool. Hopefully we'll get a reading with the revanchist on this. So that's the first page, but it's part 2. I don't know where part 1 is. It might be in an earlier Polyhedron issue. I can't remember. And we get stats for some characters introduced. Silver Jedi. There's some interesting stuff going on in here. And this is like a lot of content. I think you've got Force Vampires in here too. So this is a pretty sizable amount of content. That's 1 page, 2 page, 3 page, 4 pages of EU. That quite a lot in Polyhedron issue number 104. So that's a really cool one. Moving on to Polyhedron issue number 90 with the 2-headed white tiger. Opening this one up, this one does have the table of contents here. So that you can try to find it. Okay, this is part 1 of the New Republic campaign, of course. So that's on page 13, and it gives you a little blurb What about the other heroes of the climactic Battle of Endor? Here are plenty of adventure ideas to relive the exciting battle from a different point of view. And it's on page 13, so I will flip through to there. And I don't know if I'll ever read some of this other stuff that's not Star Wars related, but there's a wealth of other information. Like, I've seen stuff about Marvel, DC, Star Trek, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's some crazy cool stuff in here. The New Republic campaign, and we get this great art piece. I don't recognize this art piece, so I'm not sure if that is from a specific, like, West End Games RPG, because I know there's a lot of stuff that deals with the New Republic in the West End Games RPGs. I don't recognize this particular art piece, so I'm not sure if it's a new one for here or not. But this is the part 1 from the previous issue. And so we've got one page here. 2 pages. And then in the blue, there's like these stories. There's quotations. Mon Mothma's talking here. Like, see, there's some short story content to this as well. Like some actual prose fiction, which is just crazy. Like Major Durlin, Major Bren Durlin from episode 2 is who I assume that is. Might be someone else. And I think it goes for another page, yeah. So it goes for, let's see, that's 3 pages so far, which is pretty good. A 4th page here, and all of these blue bubbles, again, are a story. And then there's information about how to play the RPG. Then you get to the 5th page here, and this, I think, is an original art piece. Looks awesome. Fighting some Endorian snakes. There's an Ewok in here. Love to see Ewoks and these tentacled snake things in these trees. Some rebels here. Looks awesome. And then a page 6. And that is it to this one. And these are mostly just stats for helping you with playing the game. These are those snake things, the Okutukor, which I think are original to this. So there's some really cool lore in some of these. Moving on to Role Player Independent, Volume 1, Issue Number 2. Now, I showed this in a previous video, but I'm going to showcase it again. This is one of the ones that says Star Wars on the cover. And flipping it open, you have the table of contents here, and you find As Cold as Charity. Jim Webster introduces us to the planet Charity in short Star Wars scenario. And Star Wars is no space and no capitalized W. And it is on page 25. So you flip through, page 25. As Cold as Charity. And this is a full page, and it's explaining, this is an original art piece too. It explains an entire frozen planet and their society, their culture. This is during the Imperial era, it's made clear. You get art for the starports, that's the 2nd page, and a 3rd page, and then this tells you like how to enact a scenario. And this is kind of a story too. Like, there's some dialogue and stuff in here, like as Antigone is their only way down, they will have to pay, but let them wander about talking to people and getting nowhere. Have hard-bitten captains whistle through their teeth meaningfully and say, "You want to go where?" So there's some cool stuff to that. And that's the last page there. So 3 pages of Star Wars material here in this As Cold as Charity. And I really love the planet of Charity. Really captured my imagination. It's a great description for a planet. I'd love to see it utilized elsewhere in the EU. Maybe Supernatural Encounters will reference it. Shame the Essential Atlas was probably not aware of it. Then we've got Space Gamer, the inaugural issue of the rebranded Space Gamer series. So flipping this open, you get a table of contents. And scanning through it, you know, sometimes you'll miss it at first, but Death of a Hero, a Star Wars adventure by Barry Oser, page 20. So again, I will attempt my best to flip this open with one hand. Apologies for the wild camera angles and the closeness to the text. But here it is, Death of a Hero, a Star Wars adventure by Barry Oser. We get a full page of super cool information here. Kachi, a planet, I don't remember that. So there might be a new one. Commander Stockwell, there's new characters, new areas, and this is just guiding you through an adventure you can go on. And it gives you a map of their base as well, which is super cool. I think this is the only... Yeah, it goes on one more page, but that's it. So it ends here, and this is just the stats and the remaining maps and stuff there. So it's super cool. So super cool. 3 pages of Star Wars content in this one. And it's some good stuff too. New characters, planets, locations, etc. Moving back in time to the Space Gamer Fantasy Gamer issue. Sky Galleon on Mars. It says Star Wars on the cover. You get your table of contents here. And again, sometimes you'll miss it at first because it almost blends in. But Star Wars, page 10. It doesn't give much away from the table of contents on this particular issue. Let's see. There we go. Alright, Star Wars. Keeping the Force with your campaign. This one's really interesting, by David T. Okumura. Somewhere in this story, I saw something called Force Print, which I've never heard of a Force Print. And this is telling you essentially like some cool stories that you could tell in Star Wars that are faithful to the films, because it doesn't want it to get too far away removed from the films. So it's like giving you good ideas. It's like saying you could do like the Dirty Dozen in Star Wars, stuff like that. And it mentions a new Force ability. It's 2 pages. I think it continues, for a 3rd page here and a 4th page. And you'll see some mentions of planets like Tatooine, stuff you know about. West End Games, that they're keeping in line with the West End Games RPG material. Some Ewoks referenced, and that's the end. That's the velocity. Question of leverage. So 4 pages for the Star Wars content. There to there. So there's some good Star Wars stuff in this volume. But that stuff's mainly for like adventures you can have. There's a little bit of new stuff in all of these, some more than others. But moving on to Dragon Magazine with this incredible Buck Rogers cover. Absolutely love Buck Rogers, so cool in concept. So flipping this one open. From reading through these a little bit, I found that the Dragon Magazine's ones are kind of disappointing, like not a lot to them. But flipping down through here, well, I'm not seeing where the Star Wars one is. See, they do blend in. I'm probably looking right at it right now and don't see it. Here it is, For the Greater Good, Carl Sargent. New powers for Jedi in West End Games Star Wars game, page 22. Tell you what, they do blend together a little bit. I think that's an advertisement, and it's on the other side of this. I think, yeah. Nope, page 12. Nope. There is a advertisement for Star Wars West End Games stuff, and I noticed that in several of these. And you've got a little checklist of stuff too, which is super cool. I love that it's saying the game Chambers of Questel, Black Ice, Other Space 2 Invasion is all new. Like, all this stuff's new. It's so old now. It's crazy. It's just crazy. It's pretty cool. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Page 32, so I'm a little too far ahead. Yeah, I know where it is. Yep. The Greater Good, page 22, a new force power. And there is this incredible art piece of a Jedi fighting against an insectoid species. Looks like it's Hoth. But you've got, by Carl Sargent, you've got this page of content, and you've got this page with some ads beside it. So it's not bad, 2 pages, but then again, this is a really thick magazine. So I was hoping there would be more Star Wars content in these. In lots of the ones that are more thin, there was actually more content, which is interesting. So Dragon Magazine only has 2 pages of Star Wars content in this one. I believe that is the same for the next volume as well. So I was kind of disappointed by Dragon Magazine a little bit. Although these covers are incredible. And I love that this one has a spine. Crazy. So flipping it open, you'll see the table of contents here. Now, interestingly, there's some stuff from Jeff Grubb in here, who wrote Star Wars Scourge. And Margaret Weiss has some fiction, a whole short story in here, which I thought that was really cool. But I'm still not seeing the Star Wars stuff. I know it's near the Margaret Weiss fiction, so I'll turn to that page. Posters and foldouts and stuff. Yeah, so this is by Margaret Weiss. It's not Star Wars. But here's Star Wars. The Dragon Project. The Galaxy Dragon and Crew from West End Games Star Wars The RPG. Look at this incredible art piece. I don't know if that's in the West End Games source material. Regardless, it's still so cool looking. And you get a page here. And you get a second page here. And then I think you get a third page of stats. Yeah, you get a third page of stats and a crossword answer. Must be somewhere else in it. But you got a third page filled with stats. And information, got crate dragons being mentioned, and these lizard folks. Super cool. I just love the name, The Dragon Project, existing in Star Wars. I've not read all the West End Games material yet, so I don't know like how prominently featured the Dragon Project is in West End Games, if at all. I'm still like reading through the West End Games source material, what I have of it, and I don't have nearly close to all of the West End Games material yet. So I don't know much about the Dragon Project yet, but it's really cool. It might only be featured in this magazine, but there you go, Dragon Magazine. It seems fitting that Dragon Magazine would have the Dragon Project in it. Moving on to Challenge. This one advertises Star Wars on the cover. So it's one of the ones that does that, which is really cool. So it's on page 72. On the dark side, everyone feels a sneaking desire to be bad occasionally. Take a trip on the dark side, by Marcus L. Rowland. So, flipping to page 72. I found the challenge ones to be pretty fun. Especially because you've got the Star Wars logo at the top, which is really cool. Not all of these have that. On the dark side. And then there's some information that you can use to utilize the dark side into your RPGs. And then there's some additional stuff in here, like this quote: "The Empire will reward us well for this day's work." For like a character template of an imperial aristocrat. So you've got some cool stuff in here. You've got a third page here. You've got this scenario. So it's kind of like, it's got some quotes at the top too. So the Nuns of Gavaroon is more of the story to this. You might have some dialogue throughout here. This will feel more like, it's weird because a lot of these RPGs have these things that feel sort of like a story, sort of not, because it's trying to like guide you through if you want to play an RPG. So it kind of reads almost like a story, some of this stuff, with like these different little chapter headings. So that's really cool. And then you've got this last page is just some or is it moved on to Star Trek? No, it's still Star Wars. And adjustment in time spans, interesting, very interesting. So this is really cool, really cool. 5 pages here of Star Wars content. Gotta love it. Moving backwards again to challenge number 41. This one's super glossy. I absolutely love it. That might just be because my copy's well preserved, but or I got lucky. But Star Trek Dragon's Flight, different franchise, but still super cool. A lot of these RPGs like to talk about dragons because, you know, dragons, fantasy. So then page 48, Star Trek Dragon's Flight with the Star Trek logo. Right under it, Star Wars logo, paid in full by Lester W. Smith. Crime lords and loan sharks are notoriously untrustworthy, always looking for some way to take the payment and still seize a ship, even if it requires murder. If you were brave and resourceful, you might survive this adventure. And that's on page 60. So, I will attempt again to navigate all the way there. There's the Star Trek stuff, so following that, you should be able to find the Star Wars. And there we go, Star Wars with the logo up there. This huge splash art piece looks awesome. Paid in full by Lester W. Smith. You've got a little interaction between some rebels. Rebels, Smuggler, Rebel 2, Smuggler, Rebel 3. So you've got some dialogue here, some new lore there. Get a reading with the revanchist of that. If you don't know, the revanchist reads Star Wars EU short stories. So definitely go check that channel out as well. Second page here with some information. The planet Harridan. EGOT P4M, which is describing a new species. Very cool. This is a 4th page here. 5th page, 6th page, and they've got diagrams for what they're describing with this new information here. This really has a lot of content to it. Page 7 and 8, and it's got these the battle in the warehouse. These chapter headings, calling them episodes, I guess, which again feel sort of like short stories because, you know, you've got your dialogue up there. This is super awesome. Super awesome. And then the last page is just stats. So it moves on to another article, so stats at the end. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's really a lot of good information in here. 6, 7, 8, 9 pages of beautiful, beautiful Star Wars content here. Paid in full. Super, super cool. The Challenge magazines seem to have a lot of content in them always. Challenge number 32. The last Challenge magazine here. Again, I absolutely adore that cover. My fingers aren't working. Alright, Star Wars articles. Alone Against the Empire by Lester W. Smith. Same guy as last time. So, page 57. So, flipping all the way there. Got a review for the Star Wars role-playing game, which is cool. And that leads into Alone Against the Empire, with this cool art piece here that I don't recognize it from any Weston Games art that I know. Star Wars Alone Against the Empire by Lester W. Smith. And so it's this little adventure here. So that's 1 page, 2 pages, and it's guiding you through how to play this adventure. And now here's the kind of story stuff. You are C. Essel Dannenberger, a citizen of the planet Kyroak. Kyroak has been a backwater world for centuries. Its population largely made up of farmers. So that begins the adventure on the 3rd page of Star Wars content here. And you see you have all of this stuff that's like that's very story-like, you know? This stuff here is just it's very much like a short story. And another amazing art piece there. Pages 4 and 5 of the Star Wars content here. Pages 6 and 7, more stuff that's very story-like. You get some dialogue in here, which is so super cool. 3PO unit. Quixotic Jedi. And then at the end, I don't think that's Star Wars. No, so this is the end page here. So 7 pages of Star Wars content, though. The challenge magazines really pull their weight. They're thin, but they contain much more Star Wars EU content than the Dragon magazines do. Finally, North Coast Role-Playing, issue number 8. Absolutely adore this. So I always feel nervous holding it because I don't want to tear it. These North Coast ones are a little more rare. I flipped right to the page. Let me try to hold this in a way that I don't damage it. Imperial Submarine Assault Stormtroopers by Ian Harriott. And he describes these sea troopers, and there's even an art piece for it. So cool. Look at the flippers on it and the helmet. I absolutely love it. Now, there are sea troopers elsewhere in the EU, but I'm pretty sure this was probably one of the first times that they were, like, describing this. And there's information about the sea troopers here, all about them. And then you get your game stats that you can incorporate into your Weston Games RPGs. You even get a little caricature of Darth Vader. I said, "Well done, Pierre. You failed me for the last time." And choking his chef there. But this stuff here is absolutely fantastic about these sea troopers. I think this is so cool. And it's just those 2 pages. $1.50 back in the day. April 8, 1989. I was not alive until 2006, so this stuff feels so nostalgic for me, even though it's a time I wasn't alive. Every time I crack open one of these RPG magazines, I feel a nostalgia for it, for like how I imagine going to your local store and picking these up, flipping through them. I never lived during an era where that was something you did. I didn't grow up doing that. I grew up in this age of the internet. So, I just feel this great nostalgia for this stuff. This stuff is so super cool. And as I end the video, again, I'll say a thank you to Christopher Nelson. Definitely go check him out, his channel, if you haven't already. Because he really was the person who made it to where I could access these. Because I wouldn't have had a clue where to start for getting these Star Wars RPG magazines. I had gotten one and then asked him about it, and then he just replied with this whole checklist that he was so kind enough to give me. So big thank you to him for helping me to get, honestly, the coolest part of my collection, because I just absolutely love these, and I will just cherish these as parts of my EU collection. So I thought these were really cool, super cool video to make, so thank you for watching.